Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be making a Biovore and some Sporemines. So the box contains one big base for the Biovore and then 3 small bases for the minis. It comes with 2 sprues, full sets of sprues, and an instruction book. In here, when choosing which Biovore type I wanted, I went by the kind of rule of cool, so I chose the one with the more spiky appendages. And then I started to grab the pieces for the chest glued together. Then I started to cut out the pieces of the head. Now with the head and gluing it together, this thing gave me so much flippin' trouble. So much! In the end result, I thought I glued all the pieces on correctly and the mouth correctly, and then when it dried, I saw that the mouth wasn't correct, so one of the little fang things isn't in the correct spot. So apart from that, this model came together pretty easy, and like here I'm like gluing like parts of the carapace together. Most of this model is really well built and stuff. I think I would have just preferred if the mandibles were a bit different, just because of the way you glue them on is really hard and difficult, so I would have just wished it was better. I then started to cut out all the legs and glue them into the body. All these legs are probably not in technically the correct position they're meant to be, but you know, what I can call that is unique posing, even though it isn't, but I can call it that anyway, so it works. But later, some of these legs like have those little like stony bits or something that's meant to go on the bottom of the base. Later I cut those off because those parts are like raised off, kind of like a leg like kind of lunging out in a way, so yeah. Here I started to cut out the tail and like the carapace that goes on it. This model, if I'm being honest, apart from the little pet peeve I had with the mandibles, I really like this model, and it's really a nice addition to add to my Tyranid army. Like, I think it's pretty cool, especially the version I chose. I think it was like the Inferno version or whatever, so I think it's more of a flamethrower than like a acid gun. I actually, look, I don't completely know because I'm not a complete Warhammer nerd. I just really like the models and painting them, so. But yeah, so then I also just glued the gun together, and then I attached this to the body. And I think then that means, if I remember correctly, that this model, or at least this one, so the Biovore is done. And now here, I start to cut up all the pieces to all the spore mines, which are like those mines that they kind of fly towards you and then explode. And like, I think basically like, yeah, they're like flying bombs that fly into you and explode into spores. They're not fun. And then I glued them all to their base, and after that I spray painted them on black, and then we'll be straight onto the painting. So I grabbed a white paint, and after spray painting them all black, I started to paint parts that I kind of wanted to look like they're more glowing. So the parts of like the cannon, which are like these kind of like fleshy looking bits, I guess, that I assume like, I don't know, like the fire comes out of or whatever, or if it, I might be completely wrong that it shoots fire, but if I feel like I just remember it said it shoots fire or something like that. But yeah, I painted all these bits white, so then when I go on with a yellow and an orange, it will pop more and stick out. I then applied this same process to all the spore mines and like the explodey areas, I guess, or where the spores are kept. Look, I don't completely know the lore. I then grabbed a yellow and an orange, which I use over all the white bits. So I start with the orange and like layer on kind of the outside of the white bits, and then I eventually blend in the yellow into like the middle bits to give it a slight gradient from dark to light in the center areas, just to make it look like it's glowing just a little bit more. Then for like all the fleshy bits on both the models, the Biovore and the Sporemines, I grabbed this like deep purple for the base coat of all the fleshy bits, because my Tyranids have this like green, yellow, and purple color scheme, as you've probably seen partly if you've watched my Tyranid Space Marine conversion video. So eventually I will go over these as well with more of a bright pink. I really like the pink and the green because of just the pop it looks. You'll see what I mean when I finish and start painting in the green. And as recently stated, I grabbed this light pink, which is kind of quite a bit of a contrast level compared to the dark, like deep purple color, but I think it fits really well, especially when blended out and kind of slightly dry brushed on in a way. But in certain areas, say like how I was doing the like tail with the dots and stuff, it also is really nice for like highlighting like details like those bumps in the tail. I then grabbed a deep green, which I use as the base coat on the Tyranid carapace parts, along with a lighter green, which I kind of mix in later. I don't actually film this part because, if I'm being honest, it really didn't do anything. It kind of just blended in with the dark green and just looked the same, so I don't think it was really necessary to show that bit. But this is where the model really starts to come in, hiding all those darker base coat bits using this green, which it looks very matte after painting it. But in the next step, you'll see how I make it pop and why I actually really like this model. And then after painting all these base coat with green, I get a really light green and I stipple it onto all the models. It just, I don't know, like give it like a worn armor look, kind of battle damage in a way, and a more painterly look. Here I've sped up the footage because, if I'm being honest, this was super tedious, and I'm filming the entire thing and showing it in like real time would have been crazy. Then I painted up the base, painted the edges of the bases black. Now I think it's time for the final shots. watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment down below.